right, this is the Personnel Committee meeting on October 11th at 4:35 p.m. In attendance, we have Alder Hutchinson, Alder Johnson, and Alder Galvin. Alder Burnett said he may not be able to make it till 5 o'clock or so. Also in attendance from the Alder world is Alder Grant. Entertain a motion on the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll entertain a motion on the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 That passes unanimously. On to regular business, item E, number 1, consideration with possible action on the request to fill the following replacement positions and all subsequent vacancies resulting from internal transfers. Number A is a part-time cleaner for Parks and Rec. B is a document center operator for administrative services, and C is a street laborer for public works. Does anyone have any questions for staff? Alder Johnson?
Yeah, just one related to, I mean, we moved the document center from 19.7 to 20. Can you just talk about the why and if there's a sort of an impact, particularly as it relates to benefits?
Alder Johnson, you kind of cut out at the end where you said the impact that occurs to, and I missed that.
If there's any impact to benefits, right? A lot of, some companies at a part-time classification, it just has a different impact. So I'm just trying to determine if there's anything with that.
I guess Director Ellenbecker, do you want to jump in on this?
Yes, we actually originally was going to post it at 19 hours. That's roughly what was historically had been budgeted. But we had some other changes, but in the process working with HR found out 19-hour employee gets zero benefits. They do not even get prorated leave time. They don't get any benefits at 19 hours. At 20 hours, they start getting prorated sick, vacation, leave time, and then prorated part-time health benefits. The cost is still higher for the employee on health benefits than for a part-time employee than the active employee, but at 20 hours, they can start getting those benefits. The reason why we didn't know that before is because in the past we had Cheryl. She was one employee. She worked for the city and she was working about 37, 38 hours. So she was considered a full-time employee. We believe that for recruitment, that there was a decision to try to separate the two different kind of skill sets we actually did take that one from a 19-hour up to a 20-hour working with HR, believing that recruitment would be better if we were able to recruit with part-time benefits versus 19 hours and no benefits at all. So that is why we recruited we're trying to recruit at 20.
So does that, and I apologize, I'm trying to get into Civic Clerk and it's not letting me. I don't know if anybody else is having that problem, but.
Yeah, Brian, yes. From what I understand, Mike Koronic about a half an hour ago said that board view is not working. So at any point, if we need to, we can show the packet online if that's what you need, or you can go into the city website and access it that way. Board view is down and there is a ticket into Civic Clerk.
Yeah, and I did pull up the packet. So I'm just, so when I'm looking at this, right, there's the fiscal impact. It's showing actually a savings of roughly $75. But if I'm looking at this, that does not take into account the additional benefits. Is that correct?
I'd have to look at the packet. From what I understand, though, a full-time employee, what Cheryl was, she was getting full benefits at a full-time employee. She was getting full family plan, getting full benefits. 2 single plans with prorated benefits at a single plan for part-time employee actually isn't as expensive as a full-time employee, I believe. I would have to pull the packet up.
Okay. Yeah, and I just want to make sure that we're all understanding and on the same page with what the real fiscal impact is. And if that minus 75 is accurate, great. But if there is more to it, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that.
Any other questions or
Oh, did you
comments?
have-
Yeah,
oh,
I
did
mean,
you have-
Melanie, I saw you kind of shaking your head, yes.
Yes, Cheryl was receiving full-time benefits. She was working very close to 40 hours a week.
Okay, so when we fill these two positions, then are we, what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the benefits paid to two part-time positions is less than what you would pay to one full-time position?
Looking for the packet.
I don't know how. I think the amount of, I guess, premium that the employee pays when they're a part-time employee and then the employer portion of it. My assumption is that if we have two employees that are part-time and they both decide to take family benefits, that's kind of tough because it's a big premium payment for the part-time employee. But if they both took family, I'm assuming it would be an increased cost to the city. That's my guess. I don't
Right,
know
which
if
isn't
it's
really
like that.
documented here and really isn't being communicated in this. And this is why I want to make sure from a committee perspective, if we bump this up to 20, that there's more of a fiscal impact than what's being documented here, right?
Yeah, so if we want to, what we can do for common council is we can make sure we have that information for you. I don't know how much of an increase it would be, but that's something I'll have to talk it over with, I guess, Director Allen Becker and HR Manager Falk.
Okay, and we've not really made an attempt at this point to recruit or fill that role, right?
Oh, no, we have not.
Yeah, I mean,
think-
I guess I would appreciate it for the full council packet if we could see what that is. Impact, and I bring this up, and we've had this conversation here before at personnel, where we've upgraded a lot of positions, right? And of course that when you're always upgrading positions and you're never downgrading positions, you're always adding positions, we never remove positions, that starts to grow the payroll. And it's one thing if we're all okay with that. It's another thing to just really have a transparent discussion around what the fiscal impact of that is, as we're heading into budget season.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's, like I said, when we look at the impact between, I think the benefits, these small in the grand scheme of things. And I think the focus was on, these are two separate positions and we want to be able to recruit someone for different skill sets for each of them. And then I think it's, you all know this as the common council. I mean, our services aren't really decreasing either. So I think that kind of goes hand in hand with us adding positions as well. But that's a bigger discussion for us to have at the budget time.
It's the only question I had, Bill.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments, concerns? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve it, the contingency that it be reported out in the council packet, the additional fiscal impact for those benefits as we discussed.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. On item 2, responding Alder Galvin for consideration with possible action to review and potentially increase the salary for the mayor. 2023. My concern, the reason I'm bringing this forward is that the last mayor went quite a while without any kind of a raise. I think that was due to some animus between members of council and the mayor at that time. After that, when he has said he wasn't going to be the mayor anymore, the council discussed and implemented a raise for that position, spread out over 4 years to try and somewhat dampen down the effect it would have on our budget.
Bill, am I the only one having a hard time hearing him?
No, it's hard to hear him
I'm
on
sorry.
there.
Okay. I'll try and get closer. Is this better?
Oh.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I felt that, you hear a lot of complaints about professional politicians and that kind of stuff. And you hear about people talking about running for office, but that it is very time consuming. It can be very expensive depending upon the position you're running for. And I have looked at what the mayor does in the last 6 years. There's a considerable amount of commitment to that position, considerable amount of time. And you have an individual that's basically responsible for how the city runs with oversight by the council. He has a lot of people that, administrators that are all making more money than he is. And it's not all about the money, but if we're looking to have quality people running for office, whether they be current politicians or people in the private sector, but especially for the private sector, for people to give up jobs and that kind of stuff to try and lead the city, I think there needs to be a decent amount of compensation to attract. And so we have an election coming up. I've committed to running so far. There may be more in the wings, who knows? But I think that it's at this time, we can't do it again for another 4 years. I think we should look at increasing the competition.
Yeah, look, for those who might be a little newer to council, if you're not overly familiar, this is the only time that we can take this item up. So once this individual, whether it's city council or municipal judge or the mayor, which obviously are the positions for which we have oversight, elected positions, you have to make that decision prior to the election. Once the election occurs, that salary is frozen at that level until the next election. And if, this body were to take action again. So when you think about inflation, that happens every single year. So I think at a minimum, you have to account for that. This position was frozen for a very long time. And I think that's unfortunate because when you look at the city budget, if I'm not mistaken, maybe Director Falls could even verify or corroborate this, but I think and I think most assistant directors are actually at a higher salary level. And not that the mayor spot has to be the highest, but even when you look at, I looked at a compensation report, and this was a couple of years ago. The average chief administrative officer in the state of Wisconsin is $155,000. So if you look at every single village administrator around us, they're paid substantially more. And yet we are the flagship community of the region. And so, so I do definitely support. Do I think it needs to get up to 155? No, I think that's too much of a shock to the system in one election cycle, and really doesn't give you the benefit which you're looking for. Runway for an appropriate compensation, track the right candidates. But I certainly think at a minimum you have to address inflationary increases. Council just did that for ourselves during the last budget cycle. So I think at a minimum you have to account for that. In the best case scenario, I think we have how you move that needle to an appropriate level for the skill set that is required to do this position successfully.
And I concur. And if you look at the attached sheet of information on salaries compared to other municipalities, Green Bay's number 5. But when you look at how much some of the ones just below Green Bay are making, and then you look at the size of the population that they're dealing with, again, there is a disparity there. And I don't make this recommendation looking at who the current mayor is or potentially could be. I am thinking towards the future as we try to attract good quality candidates to run for this office. And I think a lot of people are probably sitting there thinking, maybe I could, maybe I should. But when they start looking at what they'd be giving up by running for office, even if they got it, I'm not sure if the juice is worth the squeeze there for them. And, some people may, they should do this out of their commitment to the community. But I think if you look at the amount of time the mayor spends doing this job, and I'm looking at 2 mayors now that I've been working with, they do considerably more than I think people realize. I mean, it's not just an 8-hour-a-day job. It's much, much more than that. And so I think if we want to keep moving this community forward and drawing or attracting good candidates to run for office, we have to be those compensation packages.
Yeah, and I think
Alder
Bill,
Grant? Sorry, go
Sorry.
ahead, Alder. Grant. Go ahead, Brian.
well, I was just going to say, and I think we have to dispense of this notion that this is a position of community service. This is a professional position managing a professional staff of almost 1,000 employees who has to have extensive knowledge about public administration. The superintendent, that story just came out, right? I mean, what are the sort of the lack of superintendent pool, and you're really talking about someone equivalent to a school district, except you're running a city, and the compensation schedules are substantially different than what you're seeing in these levels. And of course, when you look at the charts, as you alluded to, Alder Galvin, that are in the packet, this is, I presume, referring exclusively elected mayors, and does not take into account what administrators earn. But we have to remember, we are a strong mayor system. That means our mayor is the administrator, is the elected CEO of our city. And so unless we move into a direction of hiring an administrator, which for a city this size will cost us probably over $200,000, right? Unless we migrate away from that and go to a weak mayor system, this position, we have to understand the scope of responsibility for which exists under this position.
Yes. Alder Grant?
I apologize. It was a little hard to hear, Alder Galvin. When was the last raise? What was the year of the last raise?
It would have been 4 years ago. That was the last raise, and the last raise before then was back in I believe the 90s.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry, Chief Fultz.
Yes, Alder Galvin and Grant. So last term was when we did an increase for every year. So the last raise was this April.
Right. We spread it out over 4 years because we didn't want to, we wanted to make it look like we weren't trying to just dump a big load of money on the mayor's position.
Okay. I guess just my opinion, I 100% understand what you guys are saying. A couple things though that I want people to keep in mind is, yes, I understand there's inflation every year, Alder Johnson, but at the rate that we're seeing this year is not normal. We just did a reassessment to our entire community, and that is going to affect.
Yep.
We lost her.
It's gone.
Does anyone have her number or something? You can contact her and let her know she's not on the air anymore.
I'm
We
sure
have
she
the
knows.
number.
We'll give it just a couple minutes, see if she realizes it and logs back in.
Yeah, while she's logging in, Alder Galvin, another, oh, there she is. Oh, wait.
I'm sorry, my city start. But yeah. I understand house values went up, but what everybody also has to keep in mind, like I spoke to Chief Fultz today, my district, I have to represent my district. My district got hit very hard with this reassessment. A lot of people are over a 33% increase. Mine personally are almost, so even if we drop the mill rate by 25%, neighbors in my area are going to pay more in taxes. We also have a school referendum coming to the ballot in November. These asks, something has to give. So where is this money going to come from? Is it going to come from salary? Is things that we have to keep in mind. We can't keep asking for more. The schools need more. I'm just saying something, I'm worried about the timing. And since there was a raise 4 years ago, I don't think this is the appropriate time. But again, you guys bring up a lot of good points. I do understand that we need good talent. But at the end of the day, how much can our community afford to give?
Could our community afford, if it was $3,000 a year, it'd be 12. Community afford that for that one position?
I don't know, Gavin, can they afford it with a referendum and their tax assessments going up as well? It's not just a little, I mean, if you're talking about $2,000 make or break on top of everything else, on top of gas, groceries, everything has gone up. Not everyone is getting these raises at their own personal jobs.
We're not talking about 12,000 or 2,000 per person. We're talking about a $12,000 increase to our budget for the mayor.
I
And
understand, but I think,
you also understand that the assessments, and I don't know if you've been looking at social media, but there's some people in surrounding communities have had assessments before us. Their value went up, and in some cases, their taxes went up. Doesn't mean your taxes go up. The last time in 2004, my assessment went way up, and my taxes did not go up.
okay, but if your
Okay, so, I
assessment
mean-
goes up by 45% and the mill rate only drops by 25%, it will go up. So
So if the mill rate if the mill rate goes down accordingly and everyone's taxes stay the same, would you be in favor of this?
I want people to understand what the community view this as. When they go to vote in November for the school referendum, do you think this might be in the back of their head on top of everything else?
Well, I'd be shocked if someone thought a $12,000 increase to the city's budget for the mayor's office would be the make or break point, whether they vote for a school referendum or not.
But when it comes to our budget, what if we ask for pay increases for all of our staff? The other things we're asking for, the council just committed to the fire department, a new building that we might bond. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, asking for more and more, it's not just this.
And I think the fact that we ask for more and more is an indication that we need more and more. I have had a real rough time trying to understand how everybody can spend more money on gasoline, cell phones, internet, all those things out there, HBO, I mean, you name it, trips here and there. And when it comes to paying for something that they need, city services, they want us to make cuts and cuts and cuts to the point where if you've been looking at what's happening here in personnel, how many people have left the city because they're going elsewhere to get better paying jobs?
Which
How
is
many
why,
staff have we lost? And
right,
so-
which is,
Okay, so that bleeds into it. And here's a mayor's position. We're trying to get good quality candidates for mayor. We're trying to boost the salary a little bit to get it up there where it's more competitive and more attractive. And if not now, and I've asked this like Alder Weary, 18 years, he said this isn't the year for raises for anybody or to raise taxes. Well, when is it going to be? I mean, what has to fall in place? The school referendum has nothing to do with the city of Green Bay budget. Then what happens if the state raises taxes or the federal government? Does that mean we have to lower our taxes or lay people off so that other residents feel better about it? We have to be concerned about our house. We have to take care of our house. And to me, if we're not going to take care of our house, then let's just throw in the towel and just let things go. Let's not give anybody a raise and see what happens. And that's the same thing here. We're trying to get good candidates. I mean, all you see on social media is complaints about politicians. And how do you get good politicians? You have to compensate them. And I guess that's just my concern. If someone had a good reason not to do it, other than inflation, every year we have inflation. Every year, taxes. But the assessment, we don't know if this assessment is going to raise taxes yet or not. I mean, there's a concern, but there's state laws in place that prevent us from doing that past a certain percentage point. So I just like you to have an open mind to what's going on here and maybe give it a little bit more weight until budget time to make up your mind on this.
till budget time, because like I said, you're right, we are losing staff. I would rather that money go to pay increases to retain them. I brought this all up as something to consider, and I understand we aren't to the school district, but to assume that people won't think of that when it comes time to vote is out of touch. And I'm sorry, but not everybody has HBO. And I mean, to think that everybody's living outside of their means, I am very aware of people who have cut back on things and who are struggling to get by right now with everything going on. And I'm just trying to be fiscally responsible with our residents' money. And I just think that if we had a raise in the last 4 years, why do we have to do it again now?
The reason was because that position went so long without a raise. And when we finally decided to give him a raise, we were also concerned about the public, the taxpayers. And so instead of boosting it up to where we thought it should have been, we only did a partial boost of getting it at least within the ballpark. And that, quite frankly, that was the thought process behind it. And that's why I thought if we boost it up a little bit more this time, then we're good for the next 4 years. I mean, like Alder Johnson said, if this doesn't go now, it sits locked in for 4 years. And what's it going to be like in 4 more years? And will it be the right time in 4 more years? No, in 4 more years, we're still going to have inflation. We're still going to have referendums. We're still going to have school taxes, Brown County taxes, state taxes. I mean, none of that's going away. And, who knows where gas or the cost of living is going to be. That goes up every year. So, I mean.
Yeah, and I think we have to remember too, I mean, our staff gets a raise just about every year. I think we're right around 2% now. Is that right, Chief Fultz? So this notion, remember, this position was held for a long time. So it never kept pace with inflation. And so when the council last time made the decision to do what we did, it was to try to get it to be a little better than inflation. It was still, and so it's still kind of flat. So if we say right now, we're not going to do a raise, that's it for 4 years, topic for another 4 years. We can't go 2 years and then say, okay, we'll try to do something, so I think minimally we have to have that conversation. Inflationary increase look like, so that this position is treated fairly, just like every other position. Talk about Alder Galvin. I don't think that I personally, I just don't think that I would support like a huge lump sum. And if we do something, I'd rather see it a step increase, just like we do with any other position in our organization. So, X amount the first year, X amount the second year, so on and so forth. But I do think we have to keep, not only do we have to minimally keep pace to get this position to where it ought to be. What's the cost to the city of Green Bay when the leader of your organization makes a bad decision? It's a heck of a lot more than what we're talking about right now. Let's say we even say it's 5,000 a year, just to arbitrarily pick a number. Let's say we're going to say 5,000 a year. I've seen RFPs go through our committees that are 100 grand or more apart. And we don't even talk about it. We don't even bat an eye, right? But when we talk about a $3,000 raise, it's a crisis. I don't know that it is. I think it's a crisis when you have a bad person and couldn't attract good candidates that make bad decisions that cost the city of Green Bay way more money than what we're talking about here. I don't think we're talking about Milwaukee or Madison type salary ranges. At least I'm not talking about that. But I think a prudent and appropriate, given the magnitude of the decision making that goes on at this level.
Right, and I didn't think numbers were thrown out yet, which is why I think waiting till budget would be important to see what we can give. I didn't think numbers were even being discussed. I wasn't trying to make a big deal over $3,000.
Oh, no. And I didn't mean to suggest anything you said, Alder Grant. I apologize if it was taken that way. But it just maybe a little bit of clarity on that too. I think the purpose of taking this up now is because whatever decision this body would ultimately make gets incorporated into the budget. And I would look to staff on that, but it was always my presumption when we've taken these issues up in the past, at least with the mayor's salary, we took, I know with the council last time, we took it up during the budget process, but staff, if you could maybe provide clarity on that.
Yeah, Alder Johnson, it was a pretty similar process to this. I think we had 1 or 2 meetings to talk about the salary, and then I think we did end up making a decision at the budget meeting. So just to be clear on the timeline, the salary for the term has to be set before, I think, the first day that you can pull nomination papers, which is December 1, if I understand correctly. So we do have time the next month and can do this throughout the budget, which it's usually I think it's either a resolution that's approved or it's a like miscellaneous ordinance that's approved. And so everyone's aware before they can pull their nothing to add as well. Like the request is coming from Alder, Galvin, and this is a discussion for the common council. Staff is not making a recommendation on what the increase should be or if there should be one. And also Mayor Genrich is not in support of increasing the salary for the mayor's position.
Yeah, I had a meeting with the mayor on this and he said he doesn't support it at all.
Well, it's
I don't
political
know about-
optics for him. I'm thinking about the next term, the next
Well, and that's-
candidate.
And that's exactly what I'm thinking about. I guess, we have 3 positions we're filling here. We've been in conversation about union contracts that are being discussed right now. In all of those discussions, we're talking about potential raises and increase in benefits for employees. This person is an employee. We shouldn't be looking at it as to who the person is. And we get set up for after the next election to take place. It should be about the position, not about the person. And that's, I think sometimes, especially you see on social media, people get all wrapped up about the person. And it can't be about that. You have to be thinking about the future. And that's what I think that's why I think we have to address this before December. Now, if that means we wait to see how much money is in the budget or how the budget looks, fine. But every year, again, and I understand what you're saying. You represent your citizens. Not all the citizens are doing well. Part of the reason why we got because I had people calling me up who said they couldn't afford the assessment that the city was putting on them for the roads. But you see what's happened because we've had alders in the past that stopped roads for reasons. And now we're in the hole on our roads. So if we do this with the mayor's position, like Alder Johnson said, we end up with a position that's woefully underfunded, and you're not attracting quality candidates to run for that office.
I think it puts us in a tough spot in the future too, like we were the last discussion, which is trying to gain ground, right? Because it was frozen for so long, and then all of a sudden you're like, we got to gain this ground because the salary was frozen for 12 years or whatever that time frame was. And that actually, I think, puts us in a more difficult bind. But you have a proposal in mind?
I was thinking actually $3,000 a year.
Look, that would be to say 3%, right? And if you think about where inflation's at, Alder Grant's right now, it's high right now. It's not always there. But I think generally you look at your CPI index, you're right around 2%, roughly, give or take. So if you did 3,000, again, 3%, whatever you want to take, that's less than what we're seeing in inflation right now, but probably more than what you might see on the back end. 3% is like a status quo proposal.
And that's why I was also recommending it be per year instead of all at once in the first year. So it would be like we did this last time. You're spreading it out over 4 years. So at the end of 4 years, it would be a $12,000 overall salary.
Rather than doing a flat amount, would you be open to doing it as a percentage?
Sure. Although my math gets a little wishy-washy at that point, but sure.
And I don't think we have to get drilled down to the exact, but I'm saying even 3%, again, it's certainly far less than what you're seeing with inflation increases, especially in the private sector. So my point is, I don't think you have to take 3,000 and reverse engineer what that percentage would be.
Sure.
It's pretty darn close.
Yeah, I'm okay with 3%.
And of course, this, it's Alder Grant's question and point. We could make a recommendation. We could wait. You know, either way, it's going to be taken up during the budget discussion.
I'd prefer a recommendation. At least we can discuss it at council unless you want to hold it till, we start the budget discussion. But either way, like you said, I think it needs to be discussed.
Yeah, because I don't want to see, tax increases any more than the next person, but I also recognize that I don't think 3,000 is what's going to drive a tax increase.
True.
I think the sooner we start the discussion, the better. Otherwise, it may get lost in the dust. It is a time to be fiscally responsible for all of us, but that also means to make smart choices and to pay more where it'll be the biggest bang. And I can't think of a position that has a bigger bang than this one. So I'm kind of lined up with this notion because spending more here will ultimately potentially be spending less in the long run. That would ultimately affect the actual tax rate. So I'm definitely in favor of starting this discussion sooner than later, and hopefully it follows through.
All right. Well, unless anyone else has any other comments or questions or concerns,
I'll make a motion to do 3% per year for the next 4 years.
I'll second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. On to item F, informational. Does anyone have any questions about the report of routine personnel action items? If not, our next meeting is October 25th. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All right. 5 minutes. We'll be back for finance.